Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, the audio version of our Facebook Live series, Art Talk Tuesday. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and I am so excited that you're here to catch the weekly replay of my laid-back yet very inspiring conversations with other full-time professional artists. The purpose of this series is to show aspiring artists like you that it is completely possible to make a great career out of this art thing. And if you ever want to join us live and have your questions answered in real time by myself or featured guests, then just hop over to facebook.com/groups/Artist Academy every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'll see you there. This episode is sponsored by the Artist Academy Advanced Membership, a program for artists who want to up-level their art game by taking it from a hobby or a side hustle to a full-time art business. I've been a professional artist for over 5 years with paintings in several different countries and a client list that includes high-profile companies such as Bass Pro, O'Reilly's, Duck Commander, and many, many more. So I figured out what it takes to build an art business, and now my heart is set on teaching aspiring artists like you to do the same. Go to advancedmember.com, that's advancedmember.com to learn more. This week's episode features Artist Academy Advanced student Meg Wagler. Meg has been a student for several months and just recently has taken the leap out of her comfy 9-to-5 position working for another company as an illustrator and into the independent contractor life of a muralist. I first met Meg about 6 months ago or so when she reached out and asked to meet up and then asked to shadow me on the job for a day. I, of course, said yes and brought her on the job with me to teach her everything I knew about setting up for a mural because she had just gotten her first mural gig and she wanted to be prepared. Meg isn't afraid to ask for what she wants, and if you take away anything from this interview, I want it to be that. Meg is transitioning into a full-time muralist right now, and a big reason for that is because she had the courage to ask for what she wanted, and now she's getting it. So let me know what you think about this week's episode with Meg Wagler. I just wanted to get you on here because you just went full-time in your art business. Yeah. That's so cool. So November 1st, was that?
It's, I'm finishing out the year with the company that I'm with to kind of help plan for next year in 2020 and kind of just keeping that relationship with the clients and things. So we're doing that, and then it's transitioning into full time, and then it's real. It's time. So
it's time. Yeah. I think that's so relatable to a lot of people who are just kind of going through that. And man, just like the audio on Instagram is way better than on Facebook.
Yeah, I know. This is great.
There's no lag or anything. So this is going to be a more, full-time thing, I guess we could say. Okay, so anyway, so I'm going to ask you a couple of the different questions that we always ask full-time professional artists, which you are, which you have been for a while. Like you have a job as an illustrator, right? That's what it was, or
yeah. Well, since I'm about a decade-long designer, art director, illustrator. It just depends. I've had different roles along the way. But it's always been for someone else, like for an agency or for a company, like as an in-house designer, or I've freelanced along the way and done a little bit here and there. But I've never successfully just committed to only freelance. And so this is finally, I feel like all of the paths are aligning so that it's like everything has kind of led to this point. So it'll be really great.
Yeah, so it's a more natural transition rather than someone coming out of like a job working for a car dealership or something. I don't know, I just made that up. But yeah. And I always tell people, I'm like, you have a lot of the business experience, like, because you work with brands, so you know how to make a brand. Like, you knew how to make yourself stand out whereas a lot of people, it's hard to put their finger on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but so can you tell us a little bit more about your background besides the jobs and stuff you're coming from? Like, when did you first get into art? And then I guess, and actually my first question to everybody is, what is the tipping point that took you from hobby to professional artist? And you're kind of going through that, kind of. So
Yeah. So, well, I guess, so the history, like I said, is I've always known that I got an art degree. It's a bachelor's of fine art with an emphasis on graphic design and illustration. And I did that in college because I just, that was like when it was still called digital art. It wasn't graphic design, so it was one of the projected, like, you're going to make money doing that. It was an easy way to monetize it versus like becoming it was scary to be a fine artist because it meant you weren't going to make money, or it was going to be starving artist mentality. So I went that way. And then over time, I just kind of started to get, it's very commercial. You're working with a lot of brands and for companies. And I just kind of gradually shifted away from that, and then I wanted to get more back into painting, and my husband's also an artist, so we kind of thrive off of each other and like to do projects together and things like that. So we bought a letterpress, and that was kind of this revival of like working with our hands and feeling really excited to create something. And then from there is kind of after when I wanted to start getting back into painting, and when I reached out to you and just kind of started to define what the next 10 years looks like for me. And for me, that was kind of the tipping point of like, I don't know if I can say that in 10 years I want to be a creative director like I thought that I would. I all of a sudden was like, I don't know if that's it, so once I started painting again, I was like, oh, this is it. This feels right. So
yeah. Awesome. I love hearing that too. Yeah. And I think I was talking to Emily it was months ago, and she said something like, usually like every 4 years people hit a peak and then they pivot. And then, so like it kind of goes like this, 4 years, and then you go up, and then you go, you get like complacent or something, and then you just kind of want to like shake things up a little bit, and so you like kind of do something else, and then you hit that. I feel like I'm almost getting there with murals too. I'm like, I don't know if my back can handle this forever. Okay, that's amazing. Okay, so we're gonna get into the next question. What makes up your typical work day? How many hours do you usually spend painting?
Oh my gosh. So this is really variable right now, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And this was part of the like true tipping point of when I had to go to my current boss and say, I can't do this. It was affecting my work there because I was exhausted because I was booking murals like every weekend and on the evenings, and I was doing commission paintings and also illustration commissions. And I have 2 kids and, working full time. And so I was literally from like waking up early, working in the mornings, going to work all day, and then coming home and working until midnight, and then doing it all over again. And so it was like, I kind of told myself, I'm like, it's okay. It's just temporary until I get to a certain point, but then I wouldn't actually let myself get to that point. I just kind of let it keep going. So I finally just had this day of like exhaustion, and I was like, okay, this has got to stop. So now, and as I'm making my business plan start, I'm actually waiting to officially establish my LLC until the first of the year, just for like an even tax break. Yeah. And so as I'm building up my business plan and scheduling out, like trying to build retainer clients and schedule things out a bit, I'm going from like 16-hour days to like 8-hour days, which is crazy. And I'm really excited about that. And it, obviously it'll need to be flexible, but ideally it'll be, my business model will be a little bit different. Like you said, since I have experience in illustration and design and branding, I'm going to keep that vertical as part of my business. So I'll still take on some of those clients that I really want to work with. And so my weeks will be split kind of 50-50. So 50 in design and branding, and then 50 in illustration or muraling and painting.
So fun.
Yeah.
That's so exciting too, because I remember when I first met you and you were coming on and just being like, hey, can I just like observe? And I was like, yeah. And I thought that was so cool because not a lot of people will just ask, and you were one that would ask. And the more, like, when you came and helped me and I showed you, like, hey, this is how you set up your area and stuff, and now look at you. But yeah. When you came and helped me, I remember you were saying something about how you, like, reached out to a lot of people, and I was like, in my head, I was like, okay, this girl is she's gonna make it, because it's really, it's just that. It's just asking, like, getting someone that will go out and ask to job shadow, or ask someone, hey, do you have any like thing that I can do for you? You know, it's just that little thing of like using that courage to just like go out and ask. And you're able to do that. And it's a very short time, because like we just met, and I think you came out in like May or something.
I think that Crave, it was the cookie dough place, and it was in like March, because it was still pretty cold.
Okay.
But
March.
yeah, it was spring. It was like
some import. Yeah. And so that was like 6 months ago, right?
Yeah.
So just for podcast listeners that are like not knowing what month it is, it's like November right now. So yeah, that's a little over 6 months ago. And now it's just so fun to see like you in the beginning to now you're like, part of your income is murals.
Yeah, so, I was just laughing out loud to myself on Tuesday after we had that like complete fail of trying to do it on Facebook. But I was just thinking about how when I came in, and I remember you like holding the brush a certain way on the wall, and you just had this like super crisp line, and I was like, oh my God, how did you do that? And then so I told you, I was like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to work on my lines. And then I did. I just took a canvas and like, I think I still have it over here, but it's just line after line and like curves and curves. And I think that is just kind of how I operate, is if I know that if I like see someone else really successful and I want to do that thing, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to figure it out,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we're very similar in a lot of ways, and that's one of them. It's like, okay, if I see someone else able to make money at doing something or able to do something, I'm like, okay, I can too. Like, all I needed to see was someone else do it, just like you. Is there one thing you don't like to paint without?
So I'm still, I think, trying to test different things out, and I reached out and asked for a sponsorship from an art supply company, and they were like, yes, sure, we will send you these. That's amazing. Yeah. Again, it's just like the power of asking. And I mean, I've been turned down plenty of times. Like, don't let me give you any grand illusions of always being successful with that. But they were very gracious, and they sent me, last night when I painted that Christmas scene, I used these brushes for the first time, and it was like life-changing. I was like, this handle is so ergonomical, and the bristles bent the way that I wanted them to, and the lines were crisp, and I was like, why have I not bought this before? And then I looked at how much it would typically cost. I'm like, oh, that's why.
What brand is it?
I think it's just called the Mural Works. They're like big purple handles. They're like a foot long. I'll have to show you. I'll have to look it up and let the Artist Academy group know, because they're like now my favorite brush ever. So, but yeah,
they're all purple, and they all have super long handles. Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess that would come in handy, like doing big things, so you can just have a lot to work with.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Not good for like small detail, but normally it's just my personal style is I paint with a lot of really broad, bold sweeps of color. And so it's perfect for me. So those right now are my favorite thing.
Awesome. So cool. Yeah, I'm going to have to see what those are, what you're talking about. Yeah. And you just mentioned, you completed that window painting job last night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. And again, that was one of those things I did after I worked all day, and then I went to go to do it. But it was really fun. So
yeah. And for anybody listening, so I made a post online to try to get window painting jobs for the Artist Academy people, and so I gave this one to you, and you went out there and you did it in the rain. Is what Shelby mentioned. I was like, oh my gosh. So I texted Shelby this morning. I was like, hey, how'd it go? And she's like, it was amazing. She's so sweet, and she even painted in the rain and said it was no big deal because it had a little cover over it. I was like, yeah.
But it's seriously, and this is why I think I've been able to survive for so long on overdrive, is because painting is like therapy for me. It's so relaxing. And then plus the rain, I was just like, this is amazing. How, and it wasn't that cold. So it was actually really enjoyable. And it just probably gave me brownie points that I was willing to do it, but it actually was really great.
Yeah, that actually, now that you say that, painting, with the rain sound, okay, that would be pretty therapeutic. And how amazing is that? Just to talk about that, I say this all the time, we have the best job in the world. Really, I feel like it's so therapeutic. And I think you mentioned that when we were painting together at one point, too, and you kind of remind me, because I've been doing it for so long, so I'm it's almost turned into work more so. Mm-hmm. And so when someone comes along and they're like, oh, this is so therapeutic, I'm like, you know what, you're right. I need to just think of it like that. And and just getting to listen to podcasts all day and to learn is just, how amazing is that? We have the best job in the world.
Okay. It's really great.
Yeah. Are there any art lessons you learned the hard way so far?
Yeah, my first solo mural down in Dallas was also my first traveling mural. And I thought, I'm a pretty good planner, so I thought I had all of it buttoned up, and luckily I had a really casual relationship with the person I was painting for, so I felt comfortable asking him to kind of help navigate the local paint stores and which one would make the most sense on the way back from the airport, because it was a pretty tight timeline. It was okay, I show up on Friday and I'll prep, and then Saturday starts painting, and it was 2 full days of paint and then a wrap-up day. But it was a 36 by 24 wall, and it was full coverage, so it was it was a lot. And it was pretty high detail. And I was just, because I was so excited and ambitious, and I was like, oh, I can totally do this. It's, I was way too ambitious. And because I was traveling, I didn't really have let me run to Hobby Lobby real quick, or, oh, I just need to get this out of my studio. I only had what I had. Yeah. And so the rollers that I got ended up not working on the drywall. The paint wouldn't catch, and so I ended up having to brush the entire thing, even the big color portions. And so I was I was still so excited to do it, and I was in such a good mood, and so I was like, it's fine, everything's fine, but I literally didn't sleep the last night. I stayed up all night because my flight was leaving the next day, so I had to make sure it was ready. So I just didn't sleep, and I remember getting on the plane and just totally sinking into the seat, and I fall asleep for the entire flight back. It was so funny. But yeah, next time I will make sure I plan a little bit more time for if I have to change anything.
Yeah, for sure. And I think every artist will sympathize with that too, especially with murals too. They're so big, and you're you walk up to a wall, you're like, yeah, sure, I can get this done. And then, oh gosh, there's so many times that I've been I've just worked on the weekend but yeah, in your case, you literally couldn't. So yeah, that's definitely a lesson learned the hard way, but something to laugh at, especially a year from now. It is ridiculous how much I thought I could get done. It is comical, but luckily again, he's a friend, and he understood, and he
I mean, it ended up turning out okay, and working out, and he loves the art. So like all of that is great. It was just such a sprint to get it done. So always add more time. That's what I'm learning is I always think I can get it done faster than I do.
Yeah, same.
And I think that'll kind of come with just more practice too. You know, like I think Christine, down in Branson, she has said, like, with every mural, I get faster and faster. And it doesn't mean she's blowing through it or anything, but it just is that it's literally muscle memory. It's like, once you have crisp lines or you have these motions that you get easier, more manageable, I think.
For sure. Do you have, I guess so, usually when we ask this question, do you have a favorite past project? Do you have a favorite past project? Is that Dallas one your favorite one? Or what do you think?
I think the Dallas one was really fun, but because of how much work I had to cram in, it made it a little more stressful than what I would have wanted. And plus, I just kind of wanted to visit while I was there, and I didn't get to, so I was kind of bummed about that. Yeah. But I think doing a project in Branson a few weekends ago was a park beautification effort, and so the arts group there and Christine put together this 7-artist group, and we all split this giant retainer wall and did our own. It was just free concept, and so and it was this really pretty space, and the weather was really beautiful, and people were walking by and were like so excited about it because it was a area of the park that just hadn't gotten a lot of attention, and that was the first time that I've painted in an environment like that, and it was just really, really pretty, and it just kind of sparked all these ideas for like, oh, what can I do with Parks Board, and how can I like get some more installments out on the greenways? Because I love, I'm a runner, so I run on all these trails that are going underneath these like boring concrete underpasses, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could totally, I could work, I could do something like that and do it around the city, and I think it would be really cool to kind of incorporate these urban art elements, and so it just got my brain going and got me really excited, and I had so much fun doing it, and it was really fun.
So cool. Yeah, and I love that you guys did that together too. It's so much more fun when you do a project with other artists,
Yeah.
And I always forget that too when I'm like all by myself and I'll work with someone for a change, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of nice to talk to someone instead of stare at a wall all day by yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There's pros and cons to both, I guess, because I realized during that whole thing I probably could have gotten done a lot faster, but I was chatting and but it was, that's great too. It was great to collaborate and just be in the presence of people who know what it's like, and, just kind of like-minded people. It's really great.
Yeah, for sure. I love your guys' project up there. All of your guys' different bays area. It looks so different, but it looks very well done. It looks like you guys didn't rush it, which is nice.
Yeah. It was really cool.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. What are your future art plans and goals? We've kind of went over this a little bit, but what are your upcoming projects? So you just worked on a bus too. You just painted a bus. Let's talk a little bit about that and what else you have planned on.
Yeah. So I split the bus between fall and spring. So I did one, the side and the back, this fall. And then in the spring, I'll go back and do, the front and the other side. And is a runner-up for my favorite project because it is such a cool idea. They had renovated this old school bus to be a learning play area for kids. And so the inside of it is gutted, and it has books and games and play space, and it has the rainbow curtains, and it's just the cool, I wish I had it as a kid. It's so cool. And what awesome humans and parents to do that, because it's just it's such a cool thing. And so they have it, they wanted to paint on the outside, and they legally, I don't know if you're, it's kind of I don't think it's a fad, but it's a thing right now for schoolies is what it's called, where people renovate these buses and then they live in them, and they're basically RVs that people take around, and or little tiny homes. And I didn't realize it was such a thing, but it is. And there are certain laws you have to abide by, and it's kind of state and federally regulated. So like you can't have it be yellow, or you can't, if you're driving it around and it's not an operable school bus. And, you know, just like they can't have, like, they need the reflectors, but they can't have certain lights on it, or, you know, there are just different things. And so that's when they started thinking about painting it, and they just reached out and asked, and it was definitely the most technical prep I've ever had to do, because I've never painted a vehicle before, and obviously like there were some rust spots, and so we had to sand it and pre-wash with acetone, and like you know, it's just a lot of surface area, and so it took a really long time, and it happened to be pretty chilly whenever I was painting, so the dry time was really long. So it just like I felt like it was dragging out forever, but it was so fun. And so I'll go back and do that in the spring and finish it up, and I'm really excited for that aspect.
What kind of paint did you use?
Since they aren't going to be driving it a lot, because I talked with Seminole, and they said, well, if it's not driving regularly, then you don't need automotive paint. And I really, honestly, at this point, don't feel comfortable using a sprayer yet. Like, I haven't practiced enough to say, like, yeah, sure, I can paint this bus by myself. So I just use, like, Rust-Oleum and, outdoor enamel paint, and it worked just fine.
So like an enamel paint, like oil or acrylic?
It was acrylic. Yeah.
Okay, good. Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So, and it worked out just fine. And actually, so I got another sponsorship for that mural from Day Glow Paints, and they do the fluorescent hues, and they're so cool. And so it was a really fun exploration because I never really paint with fluorescents, or I haven't yet. But I really love bright colors, and so I was just like, why have I not done this? It's so pretty. And I was just like so excited, like a kid the whole time I was painting. I'm like, look at the bright colors.
Yeah, that's so cool. So with the Dayglow, did you reach out to them and ask?
Yeah. It was another, I mean,
things happen.
Yeah. And they were also really kind. They were like, love your stuff, and like, you know, here, take it. Like, I'm sure that I'm sure that they have limits of what they're able to do, but they were very gracious and provided, I just said, like, here are the colors I'm wanting to use. And they sent me a few gallons and a few pints, and it was just really, it's really good paint. Like, it's really great. So, I'm trying to look for another place to use what I have left. So it'll be fun.
Amazing.
And then, yeah. I was just trying to recall what question we were on, and I realized I started rambling. But another project I have in the spring I'm really excited about on the illustration side is to design some apparel for Thunder Pants. Have you ever heard of them? It's like an underwear. It's like a body positive underwear bra apparel company out of Portland. So I'm really excited to do some work for them. I've been wanting to break into apparel design, not design, but just pattern design for apparel. So I think it'll be really fun. Yeah. It's like one of those things that I was like, what do I find interesting that I really want to break into? And that's kind of that, going back to that vertical, like having the illustration vertical in my business, and then also having painting and muraling, is just because I think I'm very much so like what Emily was saying, is like I need that variety. And I think you get that out of painting because every job is so different. And maybe that'll fluctuate over time because this is just like forethought, But,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel like our brains are always like firing, like, what about this? What about that?
Mm-hmm.
What about, actually, as you were talking, I was like, yeah, you'd be a great candidate to do like licensing, like illustrations kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just had Jenna Rainey was last week's art talk, and she is just a badass. And she actually got an art agent or like an illustration agent, something like that. And so her agent gets a lot of jobs for her and like helps her negotiate contracts and stuff. And she got into like Staples and all these different things because she got an agent. I was like, whoa, that's so cool. So that's something that would be kind of cool. That I could kind of see you getting into, maybe?
Yeah, that's actually, so that's on my list once my LLC is established. And agents are tricky. The illustration field is so dense and competitive, and I mean, in the best way, it's not, there's so much inspiration to draw from, and so many people need different styles, and there's definitely work there, and it's manageable. But if you are not good at asking, and if you're not good at putting yourself out there, then you just won't get seen, because there's too many of us. And so with agents, they have people apply to, like, hundreds of people apply to these agencies all the time, like, represent me, please, and if you don't have, like, a seriously unique style, and actually that varies by agency. So, like, sometimes people only want to represent, like, kind of a general style, and then some people want to have a bunch of illustrators that have all kinds of different styles so that they can get different work, and so it ends up being a lot of research. And I was just talking to another artist, because one of the things that I've been doing over the last month since I've said, like, okay, I'm making the switch, is I've just started calling and setting up, like, basically mentorship calls with, like, everyone that I know that is an artist, and said, like, how do you do it? Like, what can I learn from you? And, I was talking with Carly Barton, who runs Clementine Studio up in Chicago. She was just talking about how this is the first time after 5 years she finally got an agent, but it takes a long time to get established, and it's so much research to figure out which ones make sense for you, and it ends up being this big deal. But yeah, once you get one, and like if it's like the right fit, it just takes off. Like, it's so nice, because then a lot of artists don't excel in is networking and being extroverted and like going up to businesses and asking for work, and so it's super helpful, and something that I don't know if it's right for me exactly right now, but it's something that over time I might consider, just to kind of alleviate the hustle part of it, because that part gets, as it takes up so much time, even to just keep up with social media. But then, like, once you're cold calling or setting up these meetings and like following up on emails, and like the sales part of it is a whole other job, so once you carve out time for marketing and you carve out time for sales, there's like this little slice of time left for art, and you're like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, why don't I have more time for this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this year especially, I was like, I'm doing a lot of not painting, like, and I'm like, so I just kind of recently have been like scheduling days where I just paint for what I want to paint, so I totally get it. Yeah, and as you were talking, I was like, I don't know that you really need an art agent too, because you don't mind going up and asking, or if you do, you just do it anyway. So. Yeah.
So I'm not always comfortable, but I just do it. But yeah, I think maybe if I get tired of doing that, or maybe then an agent makes more sense. But right now I have so much, I'm like hungry, like I want to go do it, so I'm just riding the momentum, and I think I'll just go for it.
Yeah, for sure. So a bunch of comments come in on the bottom here, and I usually can't really read them because they like kind of go. But one person like 5 comments ago said, Meg rocks. And so I just wanted to tell you that one. I know. I was like, that's so cute.
Thank you.
Let's see. Oh, Christine's on here. Hi. She says, my 2 favorite artists.
Hi. I was just talking about you.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So there's one last question, and I think I might know your answer, but what is there any advice that you would give to artists who want to make art their full-time career but just don't know where to start?
Yeah, and I just saw a comment come through that says, "Hey, I'm really bad at drawing. How do I start?"
Perfect.
So I have two answers. One is what we have been talking about, and that is just asking. Like, go if there's anyone. So like I for everybody else out there, I did not know Andrea before.
Yeah.
I just sent her, I like cold called her and said, "Hey, I'm a creep. I know that you are here in Springfield, and this is a goal I have. Are you available? Can I meet you? Can I bring you coffee? Or, like whatever, like how can I learn from you?" And it jumped off from there. And like with sponsorships and getting supplies that I wouldn't have otherwise made an effort to afford, or, asking for those. And the first illustration job I got with Ovi, who is a brand that focuses on women's health, and it just aligns with a lot of my values, and I just reached out to them, and then that led to a job with with Nadia Akamoto, who leads the period movement, and then that led to a job over in the UK, which got me noticed by a guy who's starting a creative movement, and got me in a gallery in Stockholm and then in Paris. And so it just started like all because I just asked, and these things just kind of trickle and domino. And this was like literally a few years ago. I was working in pantyhose and slacks at an accounting firm. Like I hated going to work. I was an in-house designer, and I was like building these lame ass ads for rich people, and I was just like, just like so angry every day. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, why not me? Like, I know I'm better than this. I know that I have this talent and this drive. Like, why am I sitting here? And it was that like 4-year lull period, you're talking about, where I'm just like, found myself waking up every day. And so that's when it really started to change. And I didn't know exactly what it looked like then, but I knew that something had to change. And so I just started making steps to like, okay, maybe if I try a different role, or maybe if I get back into painting, or we bought the letterpress, or just like trying different things on. And maybe you're not good at drawing, and so try it, like sit down and just like I did with those crisp lines. Like I sucked really bad at trying to get a line on calligraphy until I sat down for an hour, and I just went, just muscle memory, and went over it. And the second part to that, I still go. So Aaron Draplin is a designer out of Portland, and he in the design world is very well known. Like he's kind of self-made, and he's irreverent and humorous, and just kind of like he's like this big lovable guy, and he's a great designer, but he just hustles. Like it's just him operating, and he came up with field notes and does all this great work. And I've seen him speak a few times at How, and then he came to Springfield once, and I had the pleasure of kind of getting to chat with him. And it's always and I've kept up with him a bit on over time. And I went to him and asked, like, this was 2 years ago, whenever I was considering going to freelance, but I just wasn't ready. Like there was something that was like, I don't know, I can't do it. And I asked him, what is the magic sauce? Like, how do you make it from nothing? What do you do?
Just tell me. Yeah.
And he's like, you just have to do the work. Like, just do work. And he just like bolded that and just like repeated it several times. He's like, just work. And he's like, don't talk about work. Don't dream about work. Don't, like wait until like it's at a perfect moment. Just sit down, carve out an hour a day, and just draw, or whatever it is to you, if it's paint or whatever. And I rolled my eyes, and I was like, oh, whatever. But then I did it. So that's, I literally carved out an hour every evening, and I just started sketching. And I was really rusty because I had been working in an accounting firm at a computer, and, but it started to feel good, and it started to come together. And then now I'm here, so it just, You just have to do it. You have to ask, you have to do, you have to be actionable. You can't, I always compare it to like the people who save a lot of recipes on Pinterest, but then like never make them. So your Pinterest board is like full of these delicious recipes, but you're still eating like Kraft mac and cheese, you know? So like, just do it. Like, take the time, go to the grocery store and get what you need, you know? So like, set yourself up for success in that way.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. And someone just commented, I am older and fear kept me back, but want to break through. I've never seen a talk like this. Very interesting. Whoop. Oh, okay. I love both of your work. Thanks for sharing. Oh, I think that's such a good comment. Thanks for leaving that, Heather.
You know what? Heather's her name. If you don't know, Lisa Congdon is one of my like major idols in the illustration world. And she didn't even start art until she was 39. Like, she didn't do art. And now she's one of the most well-known female visual artists and illustrators in our industry. And she is like a total rock star, and very successful, like almost too busy. You know, I mean, like, she is like busy. And
I've heard her name. Like, that sounds really familiar.
Yeah. Not that busy always equates to good, but you know what I mean? Like, she's very successful, and my husband and I always talk about Morgan Freeman. So he didn't even start acting until he was in his 40s. So never feel like, all that to say, just, you know, it's not too late until you're dead is what we always say. So
yeah, for sure. Awesome. I love it. You actually inspired me, and now I don't want to go to bed. I want to just paint and work.
Yeah. Good.
Awesome. Good. So thank you so much for coming on here. And yeah, I'm so glad we got into work, even though Facebook was not cooperating a couple days ago, but Instagram saved the day.
Yeah.
So,
thanks, Instagram. Yeah. Well, cool. Thank you so much for having me.
Also, what's your availability like in the next couple of weeks? Because I just got another window painting job just today. I was going to see if you were available. We're actually kind of running out of really nice days, but
I know. Gosh, let me check in. I'll just I'll follow up with you after this, and maybe just see kind of what days are like. But yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Awesome. Sounds good. All right. Well, that's it. I will talk to you later. Have a good night.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
This episode is sponsored by the Artist Academy Advanced Membership, a program for artists who want to up-level their art game by taking it from a hobby or a side hustle to a full-time art business. I've been a professional artist for over 5 years with paintings in several different countries and a client list that includes high-profile companies such as Bass Pro, O'Reilly's, Duck Commander, and many, many more. So I figured out what it takes to build an art business, and now my heart is set on teaching aspiring artists like you to do the same. Go to advancedmember.com, that's advancedmember.com to learn more. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Also, if you ever want to join us live and have your questions answered in real time by myself or featured guests, then just hop on over to facebook.com/groups/Artist Academy every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I'll see you next week.